Hey guys, Kristen here. This is my video for the comic analysis for the library assignment for Writing Workshop 3, Storyboarding, Animation, and Comics at Full Sail University, Week 4. The graphic novel I chose is 12 Days by June Kim. She's a Korean woman who based the novel on a story that was told to her as a way of coping with relationships ending. Kim started 12 Days in her sophomore year of college, but left the story unfinished until meeting with Tokyo Pop editors, and they ended up helping her pitch the story to the publisher. 12 Days was completed in August of 2006, but it was not released in the U.S. until November 2006. The novel itself is 191 pages long, 8 chapters. It follows Jackie Yoon, a 29-year-old editor, through her grieving process of the death of her former lover, Noah. They were in a lesbian relationship. The first 8 chapters of the book show Nick, Noah's younger brother, taking some of her ashes and bringing them to Jackie, where she begins ingesting them slowly over a course of 12 days. In different beverages. The story follows through how Jackie and Noah met, started their relationship, and explains how Noah ended the relationship to marry a man to, to please her father. Noah dies on the way home from her honeymoon in a car accident. And Jackie continues the ritual. She ends up getting sick and hospitalized. She ends up recovering, and then on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, she finds out that Nick took her engagement ring that she had purchased for Noah and put it with the remainder of the ashes she had. At the end of the book, there's a chapter 0, but it's set prior to the events of the story in the first 8 chapters, and it's just Noah and Nick discussing ancient Greek queen Artemisia II of Caria, who ended up drinking the ashes of her husband. It's revealed in this chapter that Noah hints around to Nick that she has found someone whose ashes she would drink. It wasn't named who. I'm assuming it was Jackie. There's a clear story arc, and the entire plot has the clear beginning, middle, and end. Act 1 is chapters 1 and 2, which is pages 7 to 52. And this is where we see Nick stealing the ashes and bringing them to Jackie. And that's when she starts her grieving process. Act 2 is chapters 3 through 6. It's page 53 to 154. And that's where Jackie and Nick, they start reminiscing about Noah and her relationship with Jackie. And then Act 3 is chapters 7 and 8, and it's pages 155 to 191. And that goes just into detail of Jackie's illness, her hospitalization, and her recovery, and ending up with Jackie finding out Nick takes the ring and puts it in the remaining ashes. Chapter 0 was interesting as an addition to the graphic novel. It was not added in the first edition. It was added in the second edition. It starts on page 197, and that's where Kim gives us the insight of the pre-story events. The novel is fashioned in black and white artistry, and that's used in many other graphic novels. I've seen it all over the place. There's a clear character arc here for Jackie in her grieving process and Noah's death, and how she's working through it and eventually overcoming it, while at the same time she's deteriorating her own health. So she's not taking care of herself very well. There's a great directional flow and effective transitions throughout the story that pull the reader along through the book. I knew exactly where and when I was throughout the story and setting of the story the entire time. So it's pretty consistent there. The resolution's okay. I'm not too fond of it. having Nick taking the ring and placing it with the remaining ashes, it's symbolic, but it leaves little to be desired for me. It makes sense, especially if you get to chapter 0. I mean, for those who've only had the first edition, it's probably not going to make sense till you read chapter 0, but it ended up making sense. Overall, the story and the artistry is great, sends a great message. I picked up that people grieve in their own way. As unconventional as it may seem, they're going to do it their own way. I recommend reading it if you're looking for a decent, graphic novel. That one's it. It was pretty interesting. I read it online. I don't have a copy of the book here. I wish I did. But I read it online, and it was something. It made me look into my own relationships and just how I've grieved in my life. And it made me think, because drinking somebody's ashes, that's a new one. So it was definitely original, and it conveyed a great message. As I said, everybody grieves their own way. So who's gonna get angry? Who's gonna cry? Who's gonna lock themselves away for a couple of days? Who's gonna, take a random road trip to wherever? Everybody grieves differently, and that's the strongest message I received from reading that book. So to me, it's pretty clear. It's a great story, and it works. It works out well, especially in the graphic novel genre, because in the first chapter, when Nick is taking the ashes, all you see is some guy in a house. To me, it looked like a sugar bowl, but it was an urn, and he's pouring ashes into a container, and there's this dog there, and his exact words to this dog is, "Good boy, don't tell mommy," and there's a picture of Noah. So the artistry goes along great with the storyline, because to me, when I first read it, I'm like, well, there's a woman on the cover, and you're a guy, and there's sugar or ashes at that point being poured into a container, and you're talking to a dog about mommy being home. I was confused for a minute. But once I started getting further along into the book, it started making more sense. But I definitely do recommend it. It's a lot different than a lot of the other graphic novels I've read in my life, and I've read a lot of them, but I definitely do recommend it. It's 12 Days by June Kim. It was published by Tokyo Pop in November of 2006. Alright guys, that's my analysis. Hope you have a good one. I'm out. Have a good night.